"You're not family anymore," my husband said across the Christmas table. My mother-in-law laughed while everyone stared at me. Then my cousin stood up holding a folder. "Before she leaves, everyone should hear this police report. My name is Natalie Brooks, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a hospital administrative coordinator. It's the kind of job where nobody notices you until something goes wrong. You keep things running, you solve problems quietly, and you go home without anyone saying thank you. That's who I am. Quiet. Dependable. Easy to overlook. I married into the Calloway family 8 years ago. My husband Derek was charming back then. His family runs a small construction company, and from the very first dinner, they made sure I understood I had married up." His mother Vivian said it with a smile. "Not everyone gets to join a family like ours, Natalie." It never stopped after that. What they refused to see was everything I did. When the business hit a rough patch, I covered our mortgage for 5 months with my own savings. I organized permits and insurance paperwork on weekends. I hosted every holiday and cooked every meal. None of it earned me an ounce of respect. Over time, Derek started echoing his parents. He mocked my job in front of friends. He called me replaceable during arguments like it was simply a fact. Christmas dinner was supposed to be our fresh start after months of cold silence. I set the table early. I wore a dress Vivian once complimented. I wanted peace. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect: patience and the habit of paying attention when others thought I wasn't listening. Before I continue, I want to talk to you directly. If you've ever been treated like an outsider by the people who were supposed to love you, I understand that pain. It chips away at your confidence, so quietly you don't realize how much of yourself you've lost. If this feels familiar, stay with me. Subscribe to this channel, click hype, or hit like, and share your experience in the comments. You're not alone. Now let me tell you what happened next. The evening started politely enough. Derek's family arrived in waves, stamping snow off their boots, filling the house with noise and the smell of cold air and cologne. The first hour was surface-level conversation. Weather, sports, a neighbor's renovation. Almost normal. Then we sat down to eat, and things shifted. Derek's father looked at my roast and said, "Interesting choice. Vivian usually does lamb." Vivian smiled. "Well, not everyone has the same standards." Soft laughter around the table. I let it pass. Derek jumped in when someone asked about my work. "She pushes paper at a hospital. It's not exactly saving lives." More laughter. Vivian tasted my potatoes and wrinkled her nose. "A little bland. Maybe next year focus on being useful for once." I gripped my fork under the table until my knuckles ached. But I said nothing. Reacting only gave them ammunition. Then during dessert, Derek stood up. He straightened his jacket and cleared his throat. The room went quiet. For one foolish second, I thought he might say something kind. "I want everyone to know that after the holidays I'm filing for divorce," he said, looking straight at me. "Natalie won't be receiving anything. She never contributed to this family." He reached into his jacket and pulled out folded papers. He slid them across the table, past the dishes, past the candles, past my grandmother's chocolate cake that nobody had touched. Divorce papers. At Christmas dinner. In front of everyone. I stood up slowly. I didn't cry. I walked toward the hallway. Then his voice followed me. "You're not family anymore." Someone laughed awkwardly. Vivian covered her mouth, but her eyes were satisfied. This was what she had always wanted. Then a chair scraped at the far end of the table. My cousin Lily stood up holding a plain manila folder. Her voice was calm and sharp. "Before she walks out that door, maybe everyone should hear what the police already know." The months before that dinner had been full of betrayals. I uncovered one by one. First, Derek had quietly transferred over $12,000 from our joint savings into a private account. When I questioned him, he blamed me for overspending. He made me feel so guilty I actually apologized for money he stole. Second, Vivian had been calling relatives for months telling them I was lazy and unemployed, living off the family like a parasite. I found out when a distant aunt asked me at a party why I had given up on everything. Third, Derek placed a legal document in front of me one evening and told me to sign it. It was a waiver giving up any claim to the construction company's profits. When I refused, he accused me of only marrying him for money. I endured all of it silently because I knew that exploding would make me look unstable. That was their strategy. Push me until I break, then point at the broken pieces. But while I stayed quiet, I was watching. Something about the business finances wasn't adding up. I never stopped paying attention. While helping with company paperwork over the years, I noticed expense reports with inflated material costs. Invoices charged clients for labor hours that seemed impossibly high. Payments went regularly to subcontractor companies I couldn't find in any public record. I started saving copies. Emails between Derek and his father discussing contracts. Invoices showing the inflated billing. Financial summaries I downloaded from the home office computer. Everything went onto a flash drive locked in my desk at the hospital. They thought I was just the quiet wife at the end of the table. What they didn't know was that every insult pushed me to look closer. Eventually I had documents proving fraud, fake subcontractors, and money funneled into private accounts. And I didn't keep those files to myself. My cousin Lily had always been treated as the family outcast. Too outspoken. Too willing to ask uncomfortable questions. She had worked briefly at the construction company years earlier, and left after noticing the same billing inconsistencies. When she raised concerns, they fired her and called her incompetent. When I shared my findings with Lily, she exhaled and said, "I've been waiting years for someone else to see this." Lily connected me with a local investigator. I handed over everything. Weeks later, the results confirmed it. Fraudulent billing schemes.
Clients overcharged systematically.
Fake invoices submitted for work never completed. Money routed through shell companies into private accounts controlled by Derek and his father. Meanwhile, the family had no idea. Derek bragged about expanding the business. Vivian continued telling everyone I was dead weight. Their arrogance was staggering. Lily insisted the truth come out where they felt most powerful. Their Christmas gathering. By the time I sat at that dinner table, the authorities already had the full report. And Lily had a copy in her hands. The room was still buzzing with tension when Lily opened the folder. She spoke calmly and clearly. This folder contains a police report filed in connection with the Callaway construction business. Everyone here deserves to know what's in it. Derek laughed dismissively. Sit down, Lily. Nobody asked you to make a scene. Lily didn't sit. She began reading. Fake invoices submitted to 14 clients. Materials billed at 300% above market rate. Payments routed through companies that had no employees, no offices, no record of any work performed. Funds transferred into private accounts belonging to Derek and his father. The laughter died. The silence was so complete I could hear candle wax dripping onto the tablecloth. Derek slammed the table. You're lying. Lily looked at him without flinching. The investigator didn't think so. She explained the report had already been filed with authorities. The investigation was already underway. Then came a knock at the front door. 2 police officers stood on the porch. They were professional and calm. They explained they were following up on a filed report regarding financial irregularities and had questions. Vivian pointed at me with a shaking finger. She did this. She's vindictive. I looked at her. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. No. I just paid attention. The officers stepped inside. They began reviewing documents. Derek demanded to call his lawyer. His father insisted everything was bookkeeping errors. Vivian argued with anyone who would listen. The Christmas table, still covered in dishes and wrapping paper and untouched cake, had become a reckoning. I walked to the hallway. I put on my coat and buttoned it slowly. The sounds of chaos leaked through the room behind me. I opened the front door and stepped into the cold night air. Snow was falling gently. The porch light glowed warm against the white driveway. Behind me, the family I had tried so hard to belong to was falling apart. I didn't look back. The investigation moved quickly. The company was placed under formal legal scrutiny. Contracts were reviewed. Clients were contacted. Accounts were frozen. My divorce proceedings shifted entirely in my favor once the fraud became public. Derek's lawyer advised him to settle quietly. Relatives who believed Vivian's lies began reaching out with awkward apologies. Some I accepted. Some I simply acknowledged. Lily stood beside me through every step. She helped me find a small apartment with big windows and a kitchen that smelled like fresh paint instead of resentment. I think about that dinner often. I replay Derek sliding those papers across the table. I replay Vivian's satisfied smile. I replay the sound of Lily standing up with that folder. But the moment I return to most is when Derek said, "You're not family anymore." He meant it as a weapon. He wanted me to feel small, alone, and discarded. But standing in that cold air with chaos echoing behind me, I understood something for the first time. Being removed from that family was not a punishment. It was permission to finally breathe. They told me I wasn't family anymore. And for the first time, I realized that wasn't a loss. It was freedom. If your family ever tried to publicly humiliate or push you out, you know how deep that pain goes. It's not just embarrassment. It's being erased by the people who were supposed to protect you. Sometimes those closest to us believe they can treat us however they want, because we've stayed quiet for too long. Have you ever been embarrassed or betrayed in front of others? Share your story in the comments and subscribe so this community keeps growing. Click hype to help this story reach the people who need it most. Did this story hit home? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Click hype to help this story find others who felt the same way. Your support truly makes a difference, and I read every single comment.